So it's time for the Game of Thrones recap. Season 6, Episode 4, The Book of the Stranger. Let's recap that. We open Episode 4 with the wall. Ed picks up Longclaw, Jon's sword, as Jon packs his stuff whilst wearing one of those weird little man buns. Jon tells Ed he plans on going south. Ed questions why Jon is leaving after Hardhome. He knows the White Walkers are coming. Jon says he can't stay after being killed by his own brothers. Sansa, Brienne and Pod arrive, thank the old gods and the new, because I couldn't have taken it if they missed each other. Sansa looks around and sees Jon, and we have the first Stark reunion in years. Jon goes over to Sansa and they hug, and there's a little bit of water leaking from my eyes as we get an actual happy moment in Game of Thrones. Later, Sansa and Jon sit in front of the fire, regretting the day they left Winterfell. Sansa regrets being awful to Jon, and I'm thrown off by characters in Game of Thrones being happy and smiling. It's just not natural. Jon tells Sansa he will leave with her and watch over her, and Sansa tells Jon that they will retake Winterfell, and he should use the wildlings to do it. Jon is tired of fighting. He fought and he lost, but Sansa is determined that they're going to retake the north, and she'll do it with or without his help. So Davos goes to Melisandre, who now serves Jon Snow, the prince who was promised. Stannis finally asks what happened to Shireen. Cue Brienne to tell him that Stannis' army was defeated and introduce herself as former Kingsguard to Renly Baratheon before he was killed with blood magic. Sideways dirty look to Melisandre. Brienne tells Davos that she executed Stannis, and he still doesn't know that Shireen got burnt alive. We now go to sweet Robin Arryn, who is practicing archery and is terrible at it. Peter Baelish turns up. At last, Littlefinger makes an appearance. He lies, and telling Lord Royce, who's been looking after Sir Robin, that Sansa was kidnapped by the Boltons. Bloodthirsty Sir Robin considers throwing Royce through the moon door. Littlefinger generously allows Royce one more chance, even though he did bugger all to begin with. Or can Littlefinger please die this season? He tells Robin that Sansa has escaped and probably went to Castle Black. He gives Robin the present of a falcon since he missed his name day. The Knights of the Vale are going to head north and join the fray and take down the Boltons. We then go to the continent where nothing happens, and Tyrion has invited the slave masters to Meereen to talk. Dull, 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 it's so dull. Tyrion tells them that he proposes they take 7 years to abolish slavery instead of overnight. Tyrion then goes to meet the former slavers, who are super annoyed about slaves being there. Jorah and Daario are on their quest for the Khaleesi and still haven't become bros. Daario is being a right douche and talking about banging her. They check out via Stothrak and the Temple of the Dosh Khaleen, and I must point out that nobody actually told Dany at any point that this was where she was supposed to go when Khal Drogo died. They abandon their weapons in case they get caught, and Daario sees that Jorah has grayscale. They sneak into the city, going through the back streets, and run into a couple of Dothraki, who do not believe that they are merchants for a second, as that was their cover story. Daario snaps one of their necks. Jorah throws a handful of sand into the eyes of the second one, who simply moves out of the way, and it's really funny. He starts to choke Jorah, but Daario stabs him. Daario can so not be trusted to do as he's told. Daario crushes the body with a big rock to disguise the stab wound, and we go to the widowed Khaleesi's home. Dany talks to the old woman and bonds with a young girl who was widowed at 16. Dany says she needs to pee, so the young girl goes outside, where Daario and Jorah grab her new friend. Dany tells them she has a plan. Cut to Marjorie, who is watching a millipede crawl down the wall. The mean scepter lady comes in and takes her out to see the High Sparrow. Oh God, it's so dull. But even Jonathan Pryce, who is an absolutely fantastic actor, can make this interesting. He tells a really boring story, and then he lets Marjorie go see Loras. Loras is not looking well. The two siblings hug. She tells him to stay strong, and he's tired of being tortured. He's ready to give in. Marjorie isn't. Cersei goes to see Tommen, who is getting a lecture from Grand Maester Pycelle. Tommen dismisses him, and he tells his mother he's been thinking about the High Sparrow and doesn't want to antagonise him any further. Apparently the High Sparrow told him a big secret, but we don't find what it is just yet. We go to Cersei leading Jaime into the small council meeting instead, and Lady Olenna and Kevan Lannister stand to leave, but Jaime and Cersei tell them that the High Sparrow is planning on trying Cersei in a few days and will make Marjorie take a walk of atonement naked through the city. Even Cersei doesn't want this to happen, so they make a plan to retake Marjorie, which will of course fail because they explain it all on screen. We then see Theon on a ship, heading for home to the Iron Islands. He enters the throne room meekly, finding his sister Yara. She isn't pleased to see him. He's still very much in Reek mode. Yara suspects he's only there for the king's moot, telling him to stop crying and to tell him what she wants. Theon tells Yara that he wants her to rule and he wants to help her. We then go to Ramsay Bolton peeling an apple, because of course he is. They bring Osha to him. Ramsay is somewhat delighted by Osha, as she isn't scared of him. Osha pretends to care nothing for Rickon and strevels Ramsay, whilst eyeing up the knife. Ramsay knows, though, from Theon that Osha helped Rickon escape, and he stabs her in the throat, killing her. Another one bites the dust. A Bolton man arrives at Castle Black. Sansa, Jon, Ed, Pod, Brienne and Tormund Giantsbane are eating. Tormund is giving Brienne the eye, which I can't help but find hilarious, given her taste for pretty boys. A crow brings Jon a letter bearing the Bolton seal. He reads it. It antagonises Jon about having Rickon and threatening to rape Sansa, and feeds Rickon to the dogs, and it's a course from Ramsay Bolton. Their army is outnumbered. Sansa tells Jon they can rally the northern armies to their side, and he agrees. They're going to retake Winterfell. In Vaes Dothrak, the Carls argue about the Dothraki who were killed, but ultimately they don't care. They bring in Dany and discuss what to do with her. They could trade her for 10,000 horses to the slave masters. Dany tells them this is where Drogo promised her he'd ride across the Salt Sea and retake Westeros. She tells them that they are small and unfit to lead the Dothraki, so she will. They laugh. They talk about raping her and telling her they'd never serve her. She puts a hand on a hot brazier and tells them they're not going to serve, they are going to die. And she starts knocking over the braziers to burn down the temple, which has been locked, the guards outside being killed. Daario and Jorah watch the temple burn, the Dothraki hordes run to see it burning to the ground. The old widowed Khaleesi's watch in horror. Then, like a boss, Dany emerges from the flames, naked, unburnt, and the horde all kneel before her. The entire Dothraki horde. Jorah and Daario both kneel too, and then the screen fades to black. So this week's episode was a lot more interesting than last week's for a start. High points, Dany emerging like a boss from the flames as Daenerys the Unburnt and taking control of all of the Dothraki. Sansa and Jon reuniting triumphantly. Low points, the High Sparrow, it's so dull. I mean, yes, he's evil, but he's an old man in a potato sack in a room just talking at people. And the stuff in Meereen, not even Tyrion can make it watchable. It was unsurprising that Osha got killed in this episode, as Game of Thrones has become slightly predictable in the fact that Ramsay will just kill anyone and care not for the consequences. So another old guard of the first series dies. That's everything for this week of Airtime of the Geek. You can send comments, queries, suggestions to me on Twitter at AirtimeGeek or Instagram at Airtime of the Geek. You can email me, it's paulab@ignitionradio.co.uk. You can also take a look at Geeky Art. I upload to TV and art, and you can look me up there at Airtime Geek. Don't forget to like the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Airtime of the Geek. Or you can call the studio. The number's 01642 645 827. We'll be back next week for more news, reviews and top 10s.